Lately, I've been feeling like I should draw some fan art, but it's really hard to choose who to draw. There are just so many characters that I like and that have cool designs, and I end up not really deciding which ones to draw and end up doing nothing. Well, I will not have that anymore. I decided to leave it up to chance by writing some names of characters I would want to draw on a wheel, and using that, I would get 4 characters to draw in this video. My options were Phoebe, Mydei, Brant, Kafka, Eowyn, Zelda, Link, Capitano, Darth Vader, Hornet, and Melina. Quite an interesting cast, I know. And I spun that wheel and ended up with Eowyn. Eowyn is one of my favorite characters from Lord of the Rings. I've just always thought that she was really cool, especially when she took down the Witch King. She's always just been really cool, and knights and armor is epic, so obviously I had to put her down. And this one was interesting because I rarely draw fan art for non-animated characters, so it was a little weird to translate. I wanted her to be standing with her father's sword. It took me a little while to get the face right. Side profiles have absolutely no business being that difficult to make look right, I'm gonna be honest. But, eventually I got to point and I was happy with it, for the most part at least. And to give it a nice heroic feeling, I wanted her hair and cape to kind of flow gently in the wind. But of course, I also have to try and keep her hair out of her face for the sake of the composition, which took a little effort to make look right during the inking process. Once I was done with that, I wanted to give the whole drawing a more grounded feeling than my usual colors, to kind of copy off of, just to, give it a little more of that Lord of the Rings feeling. I tend to lean towards very cold blue-grays and very contrasty, vibrant palettes in general, but for this one, instead of going for the bluer greens and darker colors against the yellow light that I'm going to be using, I decided to work with a little more realistic color palette, and honestly, I was a little surprised with how much I ended up liking the colors. I made a pretty simple background. I almost used like a simple kind of gradient background, but I decided against that in the end because I wanted a little bit more in the piece, I added some random grass, and you can sort of see an outline of a castle-looking structure in the background, but it's very simple. I decided to keep with the yellow tinted colors for the lighting, and I wanted it to light her back to give her almost an angelic look. That I really like, and honestly, for this whole drawing, I was like, oh, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Because I was really worried that I wouldn't like the muted colors and they might wash out, but since I paired them with other muted colors, it didn't end up looking washed out at all to me. So yeah, that's definitely something to pay attention in the future for me. And pretty soon I was done. Here's the piece, and I really like it, so let's move on to our next character. So I spun the wheel once again, and I got Phoebe from Wuthering Waves. I thought that Phoebe's design was really cute and pretty different from the rest of the Wuthering Wave cast, so that was one reason I chose to add her. I also really enjoyed her character, though I haven't finished all the quests with her yet, so no spoilers or anything, I don't know. So that and the fact that her banner was going on, I was just like, yeah, I'll put her on the wheel. And I'm honestly really happy that she was chosen because I really like this art. I had just finished Carlotta's quest, and I really liked the atmosphere at the end of it all with the rain in Ragusa City. I think it's Ragusa City at least. It just had a really peaceful vibe, and for some reason it made me think of Ratatouille. Don't ask me why, but it did. So I decided to steal that vibe and twist it for this Phoebe piece. Of course, she's in the rain. I imagined that she was caught unexpectedly in it, and I wanted the city in the background to have a very strong orange light coming from the lamppost. So with the rain and the fog that would probably be going on, it would give the whole piece this warm, orangey look. Once I got the flats done, I really wanted to sell how the hair looks. Hair and skin are honestly some of my favorite parts to render. So I did a little extra with the colors on the hair, and what I call flat shading, I don't know what I don't really know what this is called, but it's basically like base shading before all my detailed multiply and glow layers. It's a little more like painting. I'll get painterly brushes and kind of blend them, and yeah, instead of using the fancy effect layers. This also gave me a chance to use more of the blues in her eyes and clothing and add them to the hair and the rest of her just a little bit to help her pop more. With that in mind, I blended up the colors mostly to the parts of her hair closest to that. Back to the lighting, I used warm browns and oranges the whole way through, just to really try and sell that atmosphere I was going for. But one thing that I struggle with is buildings. So instead of using like sketches or line art, I decided to map them out with mostly grays. So sort of a grayscale thing, but not quite. I was essentially mapping out the planes, but I wasn't adding any lighting. Lighting would come later. I honestly really liked this process, so I'll probably do it in the future. But I started with grays and then added, I believe it was a color layer over with the browns and oranges that I wanted in the final piece. And then, did the lighting stuff. And I really like this process. So I'm going to try using this more in the future when I do buildings and stuff. I worked a lot with my lighting in this, trying to sell the atmosphere, and definitely made use of my lasso tool and airbrush a lot for this one. I added some nice rain, and I think that it looks really fun. I really love how this piece turned out, and honestly, I'm having trouble deciding if I like this piece or the next one more. So the third character I got was Mydei, or it could be pronounced Mydei. I'm not 100% sure, but I usually just call him Mydei. And I was excited about this because I'm always down to draw cool warrior characters, and I was hoping that the wheel would land on this, because if it didn't, I was probably going to draw him later anyways. But this way, I get to put him in a video, so that's a plus. I had a tough time with the thumbnailing process for this. I did it in my sketchbook mostly, so you don't see it, but at the start, I was just doing what felt like were repeats of Mydei's poses in his trailers and stuff, or repeat poses of what I've done recently, like the Eowyn that I just did, and some OC art I'll probably throw up. But none of it felt quite right for him. He's a very powerful character who's been fighting for I think at least 1,000 years. I don't know. Don't fact check me. I'll get to the quest soon. I think it's coming out in a few days from recording this, actually. Anyways, after wrestling with myself for a while, I decided to take the hard way and work on some perspective drawing. Yay! My favorite. It's my least favorite. Please help me. I took my own reference image since I hate looking for pose references. It just takes me forever and I never seem to find the right type of pose. But, I took my own reference. I wanted his hand kind of coming towards the camera, and I got to work. Honestly, the perspective turned out way better than I thought it would. I rarely do any kind of extreme perspective because of the not liking to search for references, and since I have a lack of experience with perspective, I would like to use a reference so I don't mess things up. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, but I gave myself a kick in the pants and got to it. Like I said, I really like warrior characters, and his lore so far has just been really cool with his whole Spartan-like civilization and immortal curse thing that seems to be a play off of Achilles, I think. At least that's what it sounds like. Like I said, his quest hasn't been released yet. I don't know, it's fun. And you know what else is fun? I'm sorry, that sounds like a sponsor segue. But what I really mean is rendering metal. I don't know why, but I just have a blast every time I get to draw armor. Actually, that's a lie. I do know why, because if I'm drawing armor, it means I'm drawing a cool knight or something like that. But I really wanted to make it nice and shiny because it's going to be the main focal point. So I just kind of threw bronzy colors at it to make it look all metallic and shiny. I finished up all the flats and painting and moved on to the next step. Oh, also I did something a little different with the shading. I did like 2 simple lighting layers over the sketch, just to get a sense of the lighting, and honestly, I thought that was a really nice step, so I'll probably try using it more in the future. Though I think if I use it more in the future, I should experiment with the lighting scenarios more. Iteration is something I have a bit of a problem with. I don't know, I just think my original idea is so cool. How could I think of something cooler? But I probably will think of something cooler. Iteration is cool, guys. You should do it. Do as I say, not as I do, guys. I played around with the fire rock things. It took me a hot second to decide how I should light them and how like transparent they should be. And I really wanted the focus to be on his hand that's pushing toward you, with his face as a close second focus. With that in mind, I used a lot of gold yellowy lighting there and kept the rest of the drawing mostly a darker red color. I also ended up adding his lion summon thing to the background to fill up a little bit of that empty space and hopefully lead your eye through the art some more. It might take some of the focus away from the face, mostly because of the yellow in the lion's eyes and stuff, but I felt like there just needed to be something there. And I ended up going kind of crazy with the highlights, on the gauntlets especially. And I am so happy that I used this pose to practice some perspective. And after making my computer sound like a jet engine with all the layers I was using, it was complete. And I am very happy with this art of Mydei. Alright, we're going to be finishing off this video with Kafka. Man, it's a lot of gacha characters this video. Oh boy. And I have been wanting to draw her for quite a while now, almost since Honkai Star Rail's release, if I'm being honest. Unfortunately, the reason that I feel this drawing suffers a bit is the same reason that's kept me from drawing her before. I just didn't think I had a very good concept. Now, I don't necessarily dislike this drawing, but compared to the other drawings this video, it feels a little bit lackluster. Kafka is one of my favorite characters in HSR, and probably in like my top 10 designs too, for Honkai Star Rail at least. Though most of my favorite characters also have good designs, if I'm being honest. Usually when I draw all these detailed gacha characters, like even one, I'm like, whew, that's a lot. I just start feeling fatigued. But for some reason, I wasn't feeling that with these drawings, and thank the Lord, because 3 gacha characters is, with this, what I'm doing with the lighting, it's yeah, scary. It could be the way I pose them, but I didn't sweat the little things like I usually do. I had a little trouble with the lighting, but I ended up with blue and pink as it's one of my favorite combination of colors, and I think it goes pretty well with Kafka's magenta color, so you know, I had to go for it. It might be the high from the last 3 drawings that's making me feel this one is a little bland, but I may decide to redraw Kafka in the future just because I like her design so much and I feel like I could do it more justice. Another thing that I think applies to this drawing, though not really because I did 2 other anime characters, but it's that when working with anime style characters, their faces and hair can always be really difficult for me to make look right in my style, which could be a contributing factor to this, but again, the last 2 drawings were also of characters in anime style games, even one from the same game, so I don't know, could just be me. Anyways, this whole challenge was a big success in my book. I think I got some pretty good art out of it, and I hope you all got a little entertainment too. Thank you all for staying so long. I have a lot more fan art, OC content, and even some animations on my channel if you're interested. And I also have an Instagram if you want to go check out more of my art. Thank you all for watching. Bye!